Good afternoon, you guys. It's your boy Bill Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the entire basketball community. I hope you guys have been enjoying the 2020 NBA playoffs. Don't forget to tune in to Basketball Conversations every Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. This is where we discuss basketball related topics, news, debates, and everything else in the world of basketball. So, just wanted to discuss you guys about my criticism of the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, on Sunday, they basically got swept from the playoffs. The Boston Celtics had defeated the Philadelphia 76ers for the second time in three seasons. Okay, and there's been a lot of people that pretty much have been voicing for Brett Brown's dismissal from the team, and I heavily agree 100%. I think that Brett Brown at this point has pretty much outlived his usefulness in Philadelphia, and I think that the time is now to make a change at the head coaching position. Brett Brown, did his part of helping reviving that Philadelphia team that it was pretty much a laughing stock for almost a decade, and now that's turned into a relatively a winning team. Okay, but here's the problem about this, though, guys. Okay, and I think there's a lot of people that are missing something about this whole situation in Philadelphia. Okay, the problems in Philadelphia are basically bigger than Brett Brown, as you see in the title here. And where I base it off of is I read an article from Sports Illustrated that really did a good job of breaking down a lot of the different situations that have been going on in Philadelphia for the last 3 to 4 seasons. Okay, now yes, Brett Brown deserves credit for turning the Philadelphia team from pretty much an embarrassing 10-win season in 2016 and now turning it into pretty much a good playoff team. And last year, if it wasn't for that unluckiest of bounces against the Toronto Raptors, they would have probably made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and maybe you never know, probably would have had a chance to make it to the NBA Finals. But you never know from that. Okay, and so when you look at this team, dating back 3 years ago, they were building a team with Joel Embiid that was pretty much a question mark due to his injury past, and you had Ben Simmons, who was that time a rookie because remember he actually missed his actual rookie year due to injury. Okay, then you had Darko Sarkic, you had Robert Covington, and then you had JJ Redick. Okay, you had that team in 2018 in the 2017-2018 season. Okay, and you improved. You won 52 regular season games, but you lost to the Philadelphia 76. I'm sorry, you lost to the Boston Celtics in the second round in 5 games because what did the Celtics do? They dropped back off of Ben Simmons and dared him to shoot the ball. All right, that's one big thing here. And plus, you drafted Markel Fultz, who pretty much is turning out to be a bust. Okay, especially from a number one overall pick. All right. So then you fast forward the next year, okay? 2018, 2019, okay? They wanted to make a move to make a push for the Eastern Conference crown. So what did they do? They basically in November, in the first week of the new year, okay, they traded Darko Saric, Robert Covington, and Jared Bayless and a 2022 second round pick for Jimmy Butler and Justin Patton, okay? And before the trade deadline, they pretty much acquired Tobias Harris, Boban Moran Jokic, and Mike Scott in exchange for basically Landry Shamlin, Wilson Chandler, and Mike Muscala. And also, they traded away their own 2020 first round pick and Miami's unprotected first round pick in 2021 as well. And then finally, they traded Markel Fultz to the Magic and Jonathan Simmons as well for a first and a second round pick. And you made those moves, and you basically almost made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with those moves. Okay, but after being so close in a tough 7 game series against the Raptors, what happened after that? Philadelphia, for whatever reason they had, they let Butler walk. They let Redick walk. And then they re-signed Tobias Harris for 5 years and $180 million deal. And then they spent $100 million more to acquire Al Horford from the Celtics. All right. You know that the drum beats are going to be sound clearly for the fans wanting to trade Ben Simmons. And that would not be a bad move, but it would not be the smartest move. And the reason being is this: Smith. The problem with Ben Simmons is he's just not been able to stay healthy, and it's unfortunate that he's not been able to stay healthy. But that's his basketball. That's just his is what it is. First, it was the back injury. Then it was the knee, and you look at Ben Simmons and you think to yourself, when is he going to be the player that they were expecting him to be? All right, and without basically Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, the player that the Sixers should have drafted in 2017, when Danny Ainge pretty much convinced Brian Colangelo, who was the GM at the time, to part with that topic, and he went for the number 3 and a future first round pick to average basically 28 points a game in that series against the Philadelphia 76ers. Go figure, huh? Now listen, Brett Brown firing would be a good, pain relieving, thing for the Philadelphia fans. It probably get something in a better coach out of this. But even if you hire someone, say, let's say a Tyronn Lue, for example, or even a Mark Jackson, that's still not going to solve the big problems at hand, not just in terms of the roster, but in terms of the salary structure. Okay, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were never friends to begin with, but they're not essentially the problems. They need to start being teammates, okay? And they basically proved they could do that in 2019. The problem is that the Sixers front office have basically failed to provide the necessary pieces to build around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. All right, and they have been so inept in doing that. That's why I'm putting a lot of the heat on Elton Brand too. Listen, if Brett Brown's catching the heat, so is Elton Brand, because ever since he took over as a president of basketball operations for the Philadelphia 76ers, he has not done the job of surrounding better pieces around his two all-stars. And you look at this team, you say to yourself, this team should be better than what they are. But a lot of different factors, like I mentioned to you, are grossly reflecting how bad the Sixers have been in the postseason. You think about this for a moment. Jimmy Butler can be hard to deal with, and his attitude can reflect people off the wrong way. But the guy is a pit bull, and the guy is a competitor that you want to have on your team. And if they would have gave Butler, Jimmy Butler, 5 years and $190 million max contract on him, given the fact of what they basically spent for both Tobias Harris and Al Horford combined, chances are he would have stayed in Philadelphia and he would have helped out significantly in terms of the matchups against the Boston Celtics. All right, JJ Redick, say what you want to say about him, okay? He may not be the best defensive guard out there, but the guy can still shoot the ball. And he flat out said himself that he would have no problem retiring with the Philadelphia 76ers. But the team was basically low on salary space, and they couldn't match the 2 year, 26.5 million that the New Orleans Pelicans offered for him. Okay, and so you lose those two things. You really can see how you pretty much could look at this team, look at this organization, and say, yeah, Brett Brown's has not done the diligence as what he should, but the if Brett Brown gets the heat for what he's not been doing as a coach in the postseason, the owners has to be on the organization to do their better job of surrounding better pieces around the two stars, because Elton Brand's not doing the job, you guys. All right. So at the end of the day, it's going to be an easy thing when Brett Brown eventually gets fired, because trust me, he is going to get fired. But this this whole situation is bigger than what people realize. Instead, after basically failing to re-sign both Butler and JJ Redick, the Sixers panicked because how much they pretty much surrendered in the trade, and they got too giddy in signing Horford from the Celtics. All right, that pretty much put their offense in stagnation, because operating as a small ball center, the field goal percentage created around Embiid, who needs better spacing around the floor. But with no good shooters around the floor, around the half court sets, that basically allows the defense to double and triple team on Joel Embiid, and he's not particularly the best of passes out of the double team. Let's keep that in mind. All right. Now, it's easy pretty much to say that Brett Brown's going to get the axe, and definitely he deserves the axe. But Philadelphia's ownership group is going to have to really look at the whole thing and think if Elton Brand and Brett Brown are not the key solutions. So what people can we bring in that's going to utilize and get the best out of both Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? All right. Teron Lue, Mark Jackson, Lionel Hollins would be the guys that could pretty much can get into. They can pretty much get those two guys to pretty much co and sync together. Okay. Listen, they're not beefing with one another. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's this too much, you know, there's too much non-structure with the whole roster, the way that they play, but also in terms of the decision making that they've done and bringing in the pieces to help out your two stars. All right, now if they bring in Ty Lue, we'll see what he can be able to do. I think Mark Jackson could do wonders for this team. I think Lionel Hollins could do the same thing, given if they get a chance to get an interview. Now, when I heard over the press conference to what I after the series was over, Brett Brown didn't mince any words when he pretty much knew that this could be his last game coaching the Sixers, as he said in quote in the press conference. This season was riddled with amazing abundances of injuries. This season was a challenge putting people where they should have been placed. I like the way we end up getting Ben off the ball. The things that he did sort of a format. In general, ending with Ben's injury this year, you really never felt like you jumped into a routine or rhythm. That's probably the thought that will linger the most. All right. And when he was asked if the current roster was built to make deep playoff runs, he pretty much didn't want to really answer the question. He said, I'm not going to answer that question right after a game that we had just lost. It's true. Every team has injuries. I don't know many that only has 19 out of 65 times had the starting group. It was a massive overhaul for me trying to help the team, coach the team. I think this particular series, I was worried from the beginning just because of the matchups. I overestimated our ability to get stuck into people and guard the wing players with the group that we had. But that's the problem, though. If you feel like you don't have the guys that can match up against the Celtic guards, then you need to come up with a better way to space things better for Joel Embiid to score. Because even though Joel Embiid has been done well in the first half, what do the Celtics do? They crowd his space and make the other guys beat them, and the other guys just not did not get it done. So my point is this: Byron Brett Brown would be a feel good thing, but if you really look at it realistically, it's not going to accomplish anything. Even if you bring in a coach like Teron Lue or Mark Jackson or Lionel Hollins in, it's not gonna bring the roster, with balance. And even training for Ben Simmons for cachet picks won't look as great considering the fact about how he's been pretty much missing in action due to his injuries. Okay, Philadelphia blew a big chance when Simmons was with Simmons and Embiid, but it doesn't mean at this point that you should give up on them. Listen, you don't find two superstars in their mid 20s, very often right now. Okay, and so if the Philadelphia Sixers are going to be serious in making a title run, they have to start figuring out which pieces that are going to fit for these two stars. Because I'm telling you right now, if you think Philadelphia blew their chances last year and this year, when Brooklyn gets KD and Kyrie back, combined with Landry Shamlin on their team, whoo, 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 whoo. And Karis LeVert too. Oh my God, they're gonna make the NBA shake into their socks. I promise you that, guys. So that's just how I feel about this whole situation. I think that the Sixers are gonna have to have a whole huge overhaul to really clean up the problems that have been going on with this team. All right, and this is gonna take somewhat of a bit of a tiny bit of a long process, but listen, if they could find a way to unlock the talents of both of their star players, the Sixers would be going to places right now. But just as I said in the remaining of this video, if they don't find a way to find the right pieces for their two stars, don't be surprised if when their contract expires, they're going to look for somewhere else and find a different team that's going to give them the players that they need to get where they want to go. I'm telling you. All right, the pressure's on us for the Sixers to get this done. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section.